Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda, DZBS Baguio, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
A former defense chief has changed track and is now pursuing a Senate seat, but the road to the Senate is daunting because of personalities, returning senators, and those seeking re-election joining the race. Also, we get to know what happened to talks for a supposed Sara-Gibo tandem. And is this no longer an option? Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have senatorial aspirant Gibo Teodoro. Secretary Teodoro, welcome to the source. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. Good morning, Pinky, and to all the televiewers.
You had a proxy file your COC on your behalf as senator under the People's Reform Party because you contracted
Yes.
COVID. How are you now?
It was my last day of isolation. When was this? Friday, and my latest RT-PCR test came out negative, so I'm fine.
How were the symptoms?
Mild symptoms, just an itchy throat and a runny nose. But I felt that it was enough to warrant an RT-PCR and came out positive. And I did the proper isolations in consultation with my pulmonologist too and doctor.
Were you surprised considering you got a vaccination was in Davao last June, right?
Yes, I was surprised actually, but having heard stories of my other friends and classmates who've had the breakthrough infections, never mind them being fully vaccinated, I was not surprised, and I was very thankful that it could have been worse had I not been vaccinated.
So because of the vaccine, certainly you believe that the vaccine obviously worked and just basically really gave you mild symptoms.
Yes, I fully believe so.
Okay. So you're running, as I mentioned a while ago, as senator under the People's Reform Party. Can you tell us what happened?
Yes. Well, since Mayor Dutertes did not file her certificate of candidacy, and there was really, she really did not make any commitment to do so. Upon consultation with close advisors, friends, most especially the public through the Gibo.ph website and Facebook page, running for senator was their advice, and heeding their advice, that's what happened.
When did you last speak to Mayor Sara Duterte, and was there ever a time that she personally told you that she would just run as mayor?
No, there was no time that she personally told me that, and all the time that we talked, we were trying to shy away from the issue of elections. We talked about COVID recovery, economic opening, the complexities of running a major commercial area like Davao, and there was no talk about any elective position whatsoever, you know.
So you just found out that she wasn't running as president, or that she would just run as mayor through the media and through the announcements made by the mayor on social media?
Yeah, the several announcements, I believe, from the start, and from the first announcement when she said she wasn't interested, and the most telling statement is that she wanted to remain free and independent, a feeling which actually resonates with me too. In terms of being free from political shackles or whatnot. then I really believed in the statement.
We understand, of course, that November 15 is still the end of the substitution process. Do you think, or are you hoping that Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio will change her mind?
Right now, that's really a decision for her to make. Obviously, a lot of people are hoping. However, I have filed my COC for senator, and for me, I'm going to concentrate on that. Throughout my political career, I've been upholding a party, somebody else's agenda. This time, that's why I joined the political race, was to pursue a transformative agenda, which will take some time. And that's the reason why I went back to politics. Post-pandemic, there's an agenda that we must transform the country. The past cannot be the future anymore, particularly with a fast-shaping world with disruptions and innovations happenings around the world. And that's why I decided to join again.
But you said, of course, this is obviously, as we all know, the choice of Mayor Sara. But are you personally hoping that she would change her mind?
Right now, I'm. If she would change her mind, there would have to be a very, very good and big reason for it, and that's within her and for her to decide. So my mindset now basically is on the senatorial campaign, which I have to concentrate on. I know that I'm running on the same race with very, very known and popular individuals, returnees, and so I have to think of my own situation first.
Your own campaign?
Yes.
Yeah. So does that mean certainly, absolutely, that you will no longer pursue the vice presidential race, that you will for sure run as senator?
It would be very unlikely for me to shift at this time. It would have to take a major reason, positive reason, which would be beneficial for the agenda I'm pursuing to do so. But right now, there's no reason for me to shift.
What would make you shift?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. It has to be really heavy and important and doable, you know.
Let's say, hypothetically, sir, Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio runs and she asks you to be her vice president. Is that a heavy enough consideration for you to accept?
I'll have to think about it. I'll really, really have to think about it. I'll have to see where I stand. I'll have to think about how my agenda will be accepted. And those are just some of the criteria I'll have to think about. Plus,
So
of course, the winnability factor is also very important.
Right. So there's still a possibility. There's still a small opening there. That's how I'm understanding your statements.
There are no yeses, firm yeses or nos. But right now, it's highly unlikely. Let's put it that way.
Okay, we need to take a very short break. The source will be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our guest today, senatorial aspirant and former Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro. Sir, so I understand, of course, your track of mind right now is obviously to pursue your senatorial bid. But I just want to ask, who are you inclined to support as president and vice president, given those who have filed their COC so far?
I think it's the reverse. Whoever will support the agenda of Bagong Pilipinas para sa bagong henerasyon and cooperate with it. I think I joined the People's Reform Party so that I'm independent to pursue that agenda. And right now, I'm just concentrated on pursuing that agenda, building my base. And the question of who to support as president or not does not come into play because the party has not decided to support anyone yet.
And running as senator, so far, who else is in your team?
I think the PRP, I'm the lone candidate for it.
So far, no?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's talk on presidential spokesperson Harry Roque. He said that his decision to run is something that he needs to still ask Mayor Sara Duterte and President Duterte as well. So far, it's you right now, part of the team.
Yeah.
It's something that you mentioned. You mentioned a while ago, no, sir, that there's a lot of personalities. Even I said that a while ago. Even re-electionists, returning senators, popular personalities vying for the Senate seat. How difficult do you think this election will be for you?
It's admittedly going to be difficult, given that I've been away from the political scene for quite some time. And you're going against popular names. And I know that really the personality counts for a lot in local politics. But hopefully this can be overcome by the networks and relationships I've developed throughout the years, particularly with local leaders and other politicians, and social media now has a very, very great impact, and hopefully that will level the playing field, so to speak, insofar as I'm concerned.
You were talking about social media. I think it was back in February that you had changed your Facebook photo to a check. You added, I think, a check and changed it to green. And
Yes.
it somehow sparked the return, a political comeback for Gibo Teodoro. What happened back in February?
Well, I think that's when the final decision within the family, my wife and our son talked about it. We agreed that it would be a go, that I tried to make it back to public service, given that perhaps this is the best time that somebody who's had both government and private sector experience could be helpful to the country. And that's when the check mark was put in.
But what pushed you? What made you say that 2022, I'm going to make a political comeback?
No, actually, it was a long process, and it was a process of the pandemic too. That for in any time that perhaps the country would need my services, or the country would have the option, should they wish, to avail of my services and expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And my family also talked to me about it, that it's the right thing to do at the right time, where there's no one person who probably has the monopoly of solutions, the monopoly of wherewithal, the monopoly of skills needed to run the country, but everybody should pitch in. And my family told me that, I mean, it's your duty to the country that you do so. And that decision was come up and came from there. But there were a lot of people also who were asking that since before, even before the pandemic, bumalik ka na, why don't you give it another go? But there was no compelling reason at that time. But after the pandemic, I think this is as compelling a reason as possible, as you can have, rather.
Right. Because it was you were gone for, well, in the public eye, I'd say for about 11 years, maybe 10 to 11 years since the 2010 elections in the UBA. So I didn't see or hear much of you in the past years. And then it was a surprise, in fact, for a lot of people when you made your way to Davao City. And I remember even Secretary Andaya, Congressman Andaya, saying, this Mayor Sara Gibo is a done deal. What was so done about that back then?
That's perhaps what he felt. He explained that's the vibe he felt, and he was really, really excited about the possibility. So he gave that statement, and he gave that statement in full faith and belief that it would have been a good thing for the country. However, such was not to be. And so
he believed that. Did you believe that as well?
For me, I've always been, especially with my experience in 2010 and my experience in the private sector, I've always been a bit one step backward from being over exuberant about things. And
okay, so you're more pragmatic.
Actually, not even pragmatic. Yes, pragmatic in a sense, and conservatively so.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, when your family was discussing this, and even friends, that maybe it's time to make a political comeback, what was foremost in your mind? When you say political comeback, did you think, well, I want to run as vice president, I want to run as president, or I want to run as senator? Was there an option A for you? What was option A?
My experience in the private sector is that the majority of the experience in institutional private sector was as an independent director. Basically, as one who views you're part of the institution, but you're there to have a second look at things and view things on a macro perspective. And that's perhaps how a vice president can be really, really beneficial to an administration or to a president. And you can also give in positive inputs on an independent basis as you see things, and you can backstop. And so the vice presidential role would have really been perfect. Plus, I could go around the country advocating for and asking questions about what the young feel the future should look like for them. It would have been perfect, and but such is not to be as of this day. And so I'll still continue the movement. That is a commitment, and try to work within the legislature to shape, to introduce more efficiencies into the government, and try to make things easier for the private sector, and for any citizen to deal with the government.
So really, option A was to run as vice president, but because that didn't pan out, option B would have been to run for the Senate. I wanted to ask you before we go on a break, Sir Secretary, what happened? Why did you reject or did not accept President Duterte's offer? Weren't you offered twice as to become once again the Secretary of National Defense?
Well, at that time, I just had taken on two new assignments in the private sector. Secondly, I was busy with my family and with my mother too. I was in government for how many years, and we didn't want at that time to have disruption once again in our own family. Given my mother's alone, and basically there was no need, a compelling need to do so. Like Secretary Lorenzana is doing a good job right now. I can't say I would have done better than him. However, this situation, to me, I feel that each and every Filipino should offer his or herself the best way he or she can do, because it's a different world right now.
Well, sorry, just a follow-up on this before I forget. Have there been feelers from other parties to adopt you to be part of their senatorial slate?
There have been, and I'd rather they announce it rather than me. There have been.
Okay, so there's a big possibility that you'll be adopted by other parties.
Well, hopefully. Hopefully.
Okay, all right. So we want to talk about if you win, what will be your priorities? But we need to take a very short break. The source will be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb, up close and personal now with senatorial aspirant Gibo Teodoro. Okay, sir, just want to quickly get first your thoughts on the hearing at the Senate. They are about to release a partial report on the budget that has been used for the government's COVID-19 response. Have you been following it? And if so, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've been following it, and where there's smoke, there's fire, and it should be pursued by professional investigators in impartial way, and whoever has done something wrong should suffer for it, basically. But this should not also serve to stall the need to acquire vaccines as quickly as possible, because vaccinations are necessary and crucial in order for our economy to open. Secondly, it also opens eyes in what we need to do and the trust that the public needs to put in government for that. What other countries did and could not happen here was they invested in an emerging technology at source without even the surety that a workable vaccine would do. No, so they were at the head of the line in acquiring vaccines. We have to be able to get the trust of the public in order to do that, and we have to have the flexibility to do that. If not, we'll be at the end of the line always. And that goes to our interconnectivity. For example, our digital infrastructure and our digital architecture, which is really important. Off-the-shelf solutions will not do for us. And we have to invest at source We have to have the capability to do that, both for commercial purposes and for national security purposes.
What are, I guess, in summary, when we talk about the government's response, would you say you're satisfied, above average, below average? How has government done so far?
You know what, with the kind of law that we have, and with the logistical nightmares that even private individuals face in this country, it wouldn't be surprising that the response would be that way. We need now, we realize rather, we have awakened to the need that the Philippines really needs an advancement in logistics, in infrastructure, in storage facilities, in building up the capabilities of our local governments. Not all local governments, but at least certain hubs that can serve weaker or less advanced local government units, less developed rather, local government units to serve as hubs. And that would ease our problem a lot. And we need a lot of investments in that. And that's one of the things that I would be pushing for more infrastructure, for interconnectivity, both digital and physical infrastructure.
Okay, we have the yes or no question. This is the part wherein you just answer yes or no without any explanation. I only have 1 minute left. I hope you don't mind, sir. So the first is, are you in favor of easier public access to the SALN of the President, Vice President, and members of Congress? Yes or no?
I've always done it. So the access has been always easy for me. So yes.
Do you support lifting foreign ownership limits in the Constitution?
Yes, I do. Actually, yes, I do.
Are you in favor of the reimposition of death penalty for drug-related crimes?
No, not for the reason that just no, not because I oppose it, but because the judicial system probably might lack resources to guarantee a fair trial.
Should a sitting president be allowed to run for vice president in the next election?
Well, to me, ultimately, let's leave it to the people to decide. So,
is that a yes or
whatever
a no?
legal, people will decide anyway.
Okay. Are you in favor of resuming peace talks with communist rebels?
No, actually, no. That's already been done.
And lastly, should the country be more aggressive in protecting its maritime interests in the West Philippine Sea?
It should be more aggressive, yes. But how aggressive it is varies, no? Because internationally, in international bodies, we can only do so much. Unfortunately, as the president said, the UN itself is one of the most undemocratic organizations because of the veto power of the permanent members of the Security Council.
All right. Sir, we've run out of time, but I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak to you. And of course, good luck to you.
Good. Thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity. Good morning and have a great week ahead.
And thank you to senatorial aspirant Vibo Teodoro. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN 2.